right, everybody, welcome back to the show. Can't wait to get into today's topic. I've touched on it in the past, but we're going to do a deep dive here today. We're going to go over the benefits of not just raw honey, but actually of bee pollen, specifically royal jelly, and I want to go over one you may not have heard about before, and that's propolis. So excited to go over this here today. I've talked about Manuka honey in the past and the specific K factors associated with that. So what I want to do is link up that previous podcast as well as the actual research on these products today at stephencabral.com/3170. So stephencabral.com/3170 will be where all the research lives, the big takeaways from today's show, and then previous shows on Manuka honey and its specific benefits as well for wound healing, etc. All right, so let's dive right into it. Many people are familiar with honey, but what we want to say is not all honey is created equal. So when we look at honey, take Manuka honey aside, we're really looking for a good quality wildflower honey, or a wild honey that is not necessarily, taken from one specific small farm, but actually we're from bees, and they're allowed to fly around and pollinate and go over all different types of flowers in your local area, especially if you're someone that suffers from allergies. I'll share with you the specific honey-based protocol you can use. Again, no medical diagnosis or medical treatment plans. If you do have allergies, and I'll share that with you. I did it myself specifically. But what we don't want to do, no matter what type of honey you get, we want raw honey. We do not want cooked honey, which destroys a lot of the enzymes and the very delicate properties of the honey itself. So honey, when we're looking at this is actually the liquid, right? So this is a liquid because it's different than the others. That's actually produced by the bees from the nectar of the flowers. So they bring it back to the hive, and that is where they're producing their honey. All right, so I'm going to give you the benefits in just a moment, but I want to go through the different 4 types. Next up, we have bee pollen. So bee pollen, if you've ever seen it before, are these little granules, and I'll do a Friday review on the specific bee pollen that I use, but they're not rock hard, but they're solid granules. And these are actually pollen grains that are collected from the flowers that are mixed with the nectar and the bee saliva, which I know it kind of sounds kind of weird, to make these small pellets. And they're used as also a food source in the hive. Again, I'll talk about the richness of the nutrients and why you'd want to use this in just a moment. After that, we have the propolis. Propolis is one of the most interesting ones. So the bees, well, let's talk about what propolis is. It's basically a resin, so it's much thicker, harder to work with, usually comes in a capsule. Now, you can get it as a gel, like as a substance, but usually it's in a capsule. But here's what it is, though. It is a resin that the bees collect from tree buds, sap from flowers, and other botanical sources. But what it's used for is actually to patch up holes in the hives, protected from intruders, and also basically ward off pathogens or destroy pathogens in the hive itself. Keep that in mind when we begin to talk about the benefits of propolis and pathogens, okay? The last one is royal jelly. So royal jelly, it's a milky type substance. It's produced by the worker bees, the bees that go out, they're making the honey themselves, and it's the primary food source for the queen bee and the larvae that are destined to eventually become queen bees. So it's like, this is the food of royalty. We talked about ancient black rice before, right? Used to be back in used to be called emperor's black rice. It was reserved for the emperor, this special black rice. It's dense in nutrients, has specific antioxidants and phytonutrients, polyphenols that other rice just doesn't have. Well, think of that. Royal jelly is reserved for royalty, for the queen. There's only one queen for that hive. So now let's go over why you might want to use these. So overall, honey has some prebiotic effects, but it is a natural antimicrobial, anti-pathogenic based food. So there's honey from thousands of years ago, right? From ancient Egypt, that's still good. I mean, I don't know that it would eat 2,000-year-old honey, but from back in the day, and it's still able to be used. Very high in antioxidants, right? Great for wound healing. Again, not giving you any medical advice. And also, I've shared this before in a Friday review years ago, but head to head against cough medicine, you mix black coffee with a teaspoon of raw honey. Don't get the coffee above don't go above boiling. Let it cool a little bit. Mix in a teaspoon of raw honey. Head to head, it beats cough medicine. So amazing. I started doing that way back in the day. Anytime I've ever spoken too much, so like at the Reimagine Health Summit, I'm on all the time interviewing all the guest experts, and I'm having a little bit of, you can use decaf coffee if you want, but caffeinated coffee has a stimulating effect and it can actually be more beneficial, but you won't want to have that later in the day. And you just put in that raw honey. And so really, really great. So regular honey itself, a healthy sweetener, don't go overboard, but a healthy sweetener, half a teaspoon to a teaspoon, much better, of course, than any refined sugar. You get a lot of nutrients in it, has antioxidants, specific enzymes, can be used for burns or wound healing, great for the skin. I could go on, and great for coughs as well. All right, so really, really powerful. What might you use bee pollen for? So bee pollen, just to refresh your memory, those are the grains, the granules. It's not a grain, so I just want to state that, but it's like these little pellets. They literally look like little pellets, and they're not hard as a rock, but they're crunchy. They have a little crunch to them, especially if they're not stale, right? Not been exposed to air for that long. And so these are packed with vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. Now, why would that be? Remember, this is the food basically for the bees and for the hive. So what do we use it for as humans? Well, again, not providing any, I'm going to only give this disclaimer one more time. So no medical advice, no medical treatment plans, no medical diagnosis, no medical cures, but a very powerful anti-inflammatory. All right. So it can help boost the immune system and it can help reduce oxidative stress and inflammation. Also, people have been using it for years for an energy boost and endurance. So way back, especially like 30, 40 years ago in natural health food stores, bee pollen, right? Great for energy because of all the vitamins, minerals, B vitamins, etc. And then some people use it for digestive health, digestive support. Not one that I use it for, but certainly it's up there on the list. I would mainly say if I were going to use this, I'm going to give a wrap up at the end is like, why would I choose any one of these four? But this is a great one for an energy boost. All right, Propolis. Keep in mind, this is the resin. And this is the one that kills pathogens inside of the hive. And it also patches up anything that needs to be fixed inside the hive as well. So what does it do? Fights bacteria, fights viruses, fights fungi. What does it mainly do? Boost the immune system. Can be used for wound healing and tissue repair, and a potent anti-inflammatory for potential infections. All right, next one and last one is royal jelly. Quick reminder, this is the food of royalty for the queen bee and future queens. So it contains a lot of B vitamins, amino acids for protein, as well as fatty acids. So you think of this more as a food, okay? Now, it can help with, and there are studies on this, and I'm going to share the studies in just a moment, promotes collagen production and reduces skin aging, fine lines, and wrinkles. Again, clinical research on this. So this is more of an anti-aging one, but also can help boost the immune system and may help better regulate hormones and support fertility, especially for women. So it's not just for women. I just want to state that royal jelly is something I like to have a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon a day. I actually use that instead of honey. Has a different taste. It's not as sweet as honey, but I think that it has a lot more potency. And so that's why I like to use just a little bit, half a teaspoon, as I said, to a teaspoon a day for the collagen, for the anti-aging, for the immune-based function. All right, so let's go over a quick recap of what each one is most ideal for, and then I'll link up the research if you want to go deeper. And then what I will do is I'll put my favorites at stephencabral.com/resources. And then in future Friday reviews, I'll start to review product by product, but I have recommended some of these before in the past. All right. So honey, probably the best thing for honey would be applying it for wound healing, burns, and just general everyday good immune support. Okay. So it's a good overall great sweetener for kids and adults as well. And then, of course, I use it, but hopefully you don't have a cough too often, but I'll use that intermittently for speaking You can do it. It doesn't have to be coffee, but coffee is what's been tested for cough. But a ginger tea you could certainly do for a little throat soothe as well, or peppermint if you want. All right, so that's honey. Bee pollen would be used for energy. That's the main thing I would say, because each one of these helps with the immune system, so it's no doubt about it. So I would say honey, more for that wound care, everyday natural sweetener, because it tastes better than the others, truthfully. The bee pollen, energy enhancement, good nutrients inside of it. Propolis I would use for immune boosting and antimicrobial. So if I'm going to pick one for immunity, it's propolis. One for energy, it's bee pollen. One for everyday taste as a natural sweetener, and wound healing, cough sometimes, honey. And the last one, royal jelly, we're using that more for the anti-aging, overall skin care, skin rejuvenation, and hormone balance, probably more towards females. So that's my summary of how you would use the individual ones, because it can seem kind of confusing. And then what I want to do are actually link up the studies. So I won't get too crazy on those, but each one of the studies it's royal jellies on anti-aging and hormonal effects of royal jelly. On propolis, it's antimicrobial activity of propolis. On bee pollen, it's the nutritional and ergogenic effects of bee pollen. And then I'm going to give you one on advanced wound care, so wound healing and honey. So hopefully this podcast was helpful. It's a food, but really this is a nutritional supplement. When we look at, are we adding bee pollen or propolis or royal jelly, we're really talking about a nutritional supplement that you're adding to your everyday routine. And as I always say, good to get your foundation down, get your omegas, get your B vitamin, get your vitamin D. But when you're adding on extras on top of your foundation, this could possibly be a potent one that you use if you have any of these particular issues you'd be looking to resolve. So once again, hopefully this was helpful. Always do feel free to share the show with anyone you believe it could serve. And for all the details, head on over to stevencabral.com/3170, where I'll also link up my show on Manuka honey and others there too. Take care, everybody. I'll talk with you tomorrow on the Cabral Concept. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.